After a defeat to the Atlanta Falcons where everybody got hurt, I told you guys to calm down. I told you guys to cool your jets. And then the Eagles went and lost the following week to the Detroit Lions. But even when they were 1-2, even despite all the injuries, I told you guys still, they're not going 1-3. It's not happening. I told you guys to cool your jets. And then they went into Lambeau Field and they did the unthinkable. Now the Eagles have the Jets. And this is their first of 3 bye weeks on the season. So I'm getting googly eyes because I'm ready for a run. I'm gearing up. I'm excited. I got Mike Skolsky, Brendan Albert on the show. We're previewing this game, Week 5, Eagles and Jets.
Doug Peterson stays undefeated on Thursday night, so, something had to give. We talked about that this was a big game after those 2 heartbreaking losses, and it came down to pretty much the final play, so it's good to be on the other side of that for once.
Yeah, without a doubt. We talk about the defensive line, and obviously they had a massive strip sack there that really was the big momentum shifter there. And then next turnover we get is in the red zone. Obviously, it's a game winner. Typically, when people say, "Hey, Aaron Rodgers threw an interception in the end zone," it's usually followed by "just kidding," but it actually happened on Thursday night.
You know what's funny about this? And Brendan was saying, it's like, we got the turnover. Brendan, don't try and fool us. You're a Ravens fan, okay? You're here to provide an unbiased opinion. You don't need to come here and try to cater to the audience. You're a Ravens fan. You're like a different type of bird and a different shade of purple.
That's all 100% accurate and 100% fair. I'll always pull for the Eagles when they're playing NFC teams and it has no impact on the Baltimore Ravens. But when you start playing AFC teams, I might have a little bit of different rooting interest. But look, in the end of the day, I just want to see good football. That's really all I ask. Because, look, on a Thursday night, you're just asking for both teams to score more than 1 touchdown apiece. Because sometimes that feels like we're asking a lot in Thursday night games.
Yeah, and we got some good football. We got some great football on Thursday night. And you know what the Eagles did? They used a lot of that 12 personnel package. So Dallas Goedert didn't have a lot of them this season. You only had him for 9 snaps against Detroit, missed the first 2 weeks. Well, you got to see a lot of him last Thursday night, and those 12 personnel packages were tremendous. Oh, my God. Oh, did you see Dallas Goedert in the running game? Did you see him block? Did you see him push people backwards? It was unfucking believable.
Yeah, it's a big thing, especially with Deshaun out, to have that threat. We're struggling to get our run game going, to have Goddard come in and not only provide that receiving threat that we were lacking the last few weeks, but to have him blocked to the level he was blocking. The big question mark with him coming out of the draft was his blocking ability. It's like, he's pretty much like a big wide receiver. But man, oh man, like he was bulldozing people. He was a bully. He was a big reason why we were finally able to get our running game going. So that was great to see.
Well, and I think to all of our credit here, fellas, we all kind of said the same thing. We all said last week, hey, this Packers defense, they're fast, they're young, they're athletic. So how do you beat them? You just be more physical, and you punch them right in the face. And that's 100% what Philadelphia did. And Adrian, to your credit, when you bring Dallas Goedert in, you open up a huge mismatch for defense. Because one thing people have to remember is after the offensive substitutes, the defense has a chance to substitute. So if you're like the defensive coordinator or one of the guys up in the booth, you look down on the field and you say, okay, hey, what's the personnel? 12 personnel. 12 personnel means 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Okay, that's all well and good. But when you're the Philadelphia Eagles, let's say you have Miles Sanders or you have Darren Sproles in there. You can still go empty. You can go 5 wide with that. Or you can move Dallas Goedert into a fullback position and go in a pro set. So when you're the Philadelphia Eagles, because their talent there of Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, they can play out wide like a receiver. You can move them into a fullback. You can stack them in a tight end attached position. That does really not a lot for a defense, because when you say 12 personnel, normally I think, okay, hey, let's go put 7 in the box. But when I'm playing against the Eagles, I know you still very well could go 5 wide on me. So that makes me play nickel a little more, which means what? You can be far more physical with me because I don't know exactly what to counter with as far as my defensive personnel to substitute.
Yeah, so you talked about all the beef in the box that the Eagles can bring, and it's not only just the 12 with the 2 tight ends. They'll also bring in the extra linemen. And the other thing that we saw last Thursday was the utilization of Matt Collins and the crackback block. So you got Goddard setting the edge, you got Matt Collins on the crackback, setting up the boundaries and opening up those alleys, as Vince Lombardi used to say. And the Packers, they use this mismatch running off the left side of the line. The Packers are yielding 8+ yards a carry off that side. So Eagles, Doug Peterson, that's what he does. He takes care of mismatches. Mismatches. Did I just say that? Is that a word? I just made it up.
It is now.
Takes care of Yep. Put it in the fucking dictionary. So yeah, he takes care of those mismatches. Got it right that time, and that's what he does. So 12 personnel package. You kind of got into it a little bit, Brendan. I'm going to ask you this before we get to Skolsky. So differences between the 12 and say the 11, one wide receiver or one tight end, and you got 10 personnel. You can go I formation, go 21 personnel if you want. What are the differences that you can bring with the 12 as opposed to some of the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, when you go 11 personnel, if I'm a defensive coordinator, it's not a question bringing in nickel, right? I'm going 4-2-5 type of personnel, maybe a 3-3, maybe a stack situation, but I'm not bringing in 7 in the box. I'm putting six or less in the box traditionally if you have 11 personnel. I have zero fear that Matt Collins is suddenly going to be a road grader in the run blocking game. I have zero fear if when Deshaun Jackson comes back, he's going to all of a sudden be this road blocker, right? So if it's 11 personnel as a defense, it's easy for me. Okay, hey, let's go nickel, and then let's play finesse and play speed with them. But when you go 12, because Dallas Goedert and because Zach Ertz can play fullback, tight end, and receiver, or at least line up in those positions, it's not easy for me to go 11 personnel, because if you go 12 personnel, for example, and I put a 4-2, so I have 4 defensive linemen and I have 2 linebackers, that means I have 6 in the box. Well, if you bring in 12, that tells me you could have 7 in the box, because you could bring Zach Ertz in, you could bring Dallas Goedert, and now I'm not -1 in the box. And opposed to, okay, so I go 4-3. All right, hey, we go 7 on the box defensively. You maybe go 7 in the box because you bring in Dallas Goedert, because you bring in Zach Ertz. Well, now all of a sudden you motion to empty. And I don't like any of my linebackers really at the idea of playing in space against Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. So what the Eagles have here is just chess pieces. I wasn't crazy personally, Adrian, about the Dallas Goedert pick, because I said it was more of a luxury pick. Mm-hmm. I loved it because of the talent, don't get me wrong, but I didn't think it was necessarily an absolute need. However, when you have a great offensive play caller who understands how to use his players to his advantage, it's really showing a dividends, and you can see that all the run game, it's a large reason because of being able to go 12 personnel.
They would have beaten the Lions if they had the 12 personnel packages, I'm telling you. You agree, Skolsky?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the 12 personnel. It's also because of how dynamic both those tight ends, because they're such a threat in the receiving game as well. I mean, we had Vaitai in as our backup tight end in those previous 2 games, but obviously when he's in, no one's going to respect him in the passing game.
Right.
Essentially, everyone's just going to stack the box like, oh, they're more than likely running, or we can just completely ignore Vaitai.
Picturing him going down the seam.
I mean, that's how you usually see those fat guy touchdowns, usually when they put those linemen in as eligible receivers. But when you have Goddard there, I mean, like Brendan just broke down excellently, you have to worry about him in the passing game. But since he's improved so much as a runner, like you also have to respect that they could just be running in your face. And what happened was, almost inexplicably, because they respected his receiving ability so much, they put a lot of dime personnel against the 12.
Right.
Yeah. That's when we saw Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders gash those big runs, because usually you don't see that, but when both their tight ends are that dynamic, which is rare to have 2, that's what we might be seeing, and that's a big advantage for our offense.
And that was very surprising to see, because I know they were coming in, they struggled to stop the run. The Eagles, on the other hand, were struggling to generate the run and get it going. So to see all the dime against it, despite the struggles that the Eagles did have, you got it in the game this time, and they just played bully ball with the Packers and just running the ball down their throat. And the other thing, you talk about what they can bring to the table in the receiving game. So you run the ball, you run the ball, you run the ball. All of a sudden, all the separation that's created in the play action game. So this personnel package, it's going to be dynamic, I think, all season long.
And big credit. I mean, we talked about Goddard's blocking, but I also think this is by far the best game our offensive line had. I mean, about
not even close.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I believe we were blitzed almost twice as much as we were, and I don't think Carson got sacked once the entire game. He was relatively clean the entire game, which is what you want.
They were wearing the all whites, and he didn't have a stain on it.
Yeah, I mean, Sayamalu, against the Falcons, he looked like, he should be released the next day, but he held his own there. And then Brandon Brooks, give him credit. He's coming off an Achilles injury, and like him or not, he's PFF's highest rated guard. Whether or not you like Pro Football Focus, it's subjective, but to even be in consideration and to even be playing at the level he is, like this short after an Achilles injury, that's incredible. So, I mean, there was a lot to like as far as our blocking.
Without a question here, and I can't. I want to make sure we I know it sounds like we're beating a dead horse, but it's really important to talk about the strides Dallas Goedert made. He was an FCS tight end, and he was still looked as more of an athlete than a tight end. And when you look at him, I'm going to use Evan Ingram as a more recent example. When Evan Ingram was coming out of Ole Miss, that was a lot of how I looked at Dallas Goedert. He's a big athlete, more so than a true blocking tight end. Look at the differences now. I'm not scared at all about Evan Ingram in the run game. But I am scared about Dallas Goedert. And that's exactly the difference that we talk about when you bring in this 12 personnel. It completely changes the way you get respected. If I'm playing the Giants and you tell me Evan Ingram is going to be my lead blocker, I'm not really fearing you. Now you bring in Dallas Goedert, starting to pucker up a little bit and get a little more nervous about that.
And the thing is, all these tight ends that we're seeing in the league in recent years, a lot of them can't block. But Dallas Goedert, he can. So, quick question before we get into a different topic. Who has better googly eyes? Adam Gase in general or Justin Peele when he watches Dallas Goedert play?
Ooh.
I thought you were going to say Gritty.
Oh, Gritty's a good one too.
Can I give an answer? And the obvious answer is just Jerry Jones forever because he's just permanently plastic surgeon that his eyes are always like that.
I think that's thinking outside the box. I like it.
Because I think that's the most obvious answer. If we're talking googly eyes, he's
the Justin Peele though is an all-timer. It's an all-timer. I mean, he's staring directly at his ass. He's just he's awestruck by Dallas Goedert. I love the Justin Peele clip.
Yeah, it's very true.
Justin Peele here. Skulls, you got an answer here? Just quick.
I mean, it's hard to beat Jerry Jones. I mean, I just think of that South Park. I just think of that South Park episode where he had one eye on the top.
Exactly.
That was amazing.
There we go. All right, we got some googly eye talk in the fucking preview show. There we go. All right, let's talk about the injuries to the secondary because this is now the second year in a row where guys are going down like flies at the cornerback spot. So Sidney Jones has a hamstring injury again. He may play Sunday. I don't think he's going to play. So you got an injury to him, you got an injury to Ronald Darby, and then you got an injury to Avonte Maddox. That's 3 out of your top 4 cornerbacks. Last year, it was like this by November. It's only October, and it's already like this. So I'm just curious here. It's like, what's going on with this? Is it the medical department? Is it just the fact that these defensive backs just always get hurt? I know it's a position where they get hurt more than any other position group in the NFL, but man, these guys just always go down.
First and foremost, shout out Craig James. You play one snap. You play one snap the entire game. You didn't even. I think they say he didn't practice. He barely got any defensive snaps. It's almost all special teams, all practice. And then, Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in the league, is going directly at you at that play. And, I mean, he delivered. He got the ball up in the air. Bradham picked it off. I was scared as hell that Bradham was going to get stripped. I was yelling at him to get down. But, I mean, give credit to Craig James. With that said, though, there is some worry with the secondary. I mean, I'm on record of being very excited by the Sidney Jones pick. I was pumping that up before the draft. I was saying I hope we find a way to get him.
A lot of people were.
I think all 3 of us were.
Yeah, and there's certainly. I mean, it's really hard to get a grip on him because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then he might not ever stay healthy. It's certainly a question now. Will we ever even get to see? He has a chance to becoming that guy we all 3 of us thought he would be. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm hoping he's going to be there this weekend. But I mean, hopefully they're not going to put him out there on one leg like they did with the Saints game last year. But we're getting low on bodies right now. I mean, he has the injury history. Darby obviously is coming off a major injury and has an injury history. We have some reinforcements coming later in the season via Jalen Mills and Craven LeBlanc. But I mean, right now we're just kind of holding down the fort. And when our pass rush is getting pressure but not sacks, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on these inexperienced cornerbacks.
Yeah, I mean, if we are looking at the result, hey, the result's a win. Everyone's happy and smiling. But if we're looking at the body of work says Devontae Adams was ripping the Philadelphia Eagles apart all game. And I'm just going to be the realist here. I don't think the Eagles get all those stops if Devontae Adams is healthy. I mean, I think that's a very realistic thing. If you put him in the red zone, the guy who leads the league in red zone targets and touchdowns the last 3 seasons, we might be singing a very different tune today, to be completely transparent here, fellas. To his credit, Rasul Douglas played pretty damn well. You know, in stretches there, but he's always been this inconsistent guy, at least for me, right? I've always been like, all right, here he comes, and there he goes. It just feels like the one thing I will say for the defensive backs is I see a lot of guys on the market, and obviously Jalen Ramsey is the big name. I still am banging the table that Pat P is going to be on the market no matter what Arizona says. By the time he finishes suspension in week 6, I still believe he'll be on the market. And I still believe that Cliff Harris in Denver will be on the market at some point in time too. So I see potential fits coming in, fellas, but I do believe it costs a draft pick. And Skolsky, you pointed this out last week. This is one of the oldest teams in the NFL. So then it becomes this conversation of, do we make a trade to bring in one of these guys where I think all 3 of them are obviously absolute studs in my opinion. But you also know if you bring in Harris or Pat P, that window's probably only 3 years and you're trading a draft pick. That's a tough conversation.
I'm going to tell you an inside story about Brendan and a player he used to coach by the name of Cliff Harris. And he knows where I'm going with this. Every time the name Chris Harris is brought up, he says Cliff Harris.
Always Cliff Harris.
Every time.
It'll forever be Cliff Harris.
Cliff, who was Charles Harris was the other one from the Dolphins leading up to the draft. You kept calling him Cliff Harris too.
Cliff Harris. It's forever Cliff Harris.
Any guy with a C and then a Harris.
Cliff Harris.
Every time.
Cliff Harris.
So your starting cornerbacks in this game are going to be Craig James on the outside, Rasul Douglas, and then they just brought back Orlando Scandrick. So I guess he's going to man the slot.
Sure.
So I guess if there's a game to have injured cornerbacks, it's this one, as long as Sam Darnold doesn't play, which I don't think he is. He was not cleared for contact on Monday. So that was the report I had for the radio, and he's still got the mononucleosis. I don't think he's going to play because if you take a hit on the spleen, you can die.
Yeah.
You can die. I'm not fucking around. You can die.
Yeah, it can rupture.
Yeah, so he's on the Jets. They stink. There's no reason for him to play. So this is a great spot potentially for your cornerbacks, but they do have Jamison Crowder and Robbie Anderson, who are pretty good. I just don't know if Luke Falk can get the ball to them.
And like Brendan said, credit to Rasul Douglas last week. What Rasul's one knock on him this season is he's been really good with his physical receivers, but he's been having trouble keeping up with his burners. He doesn't have that speed, and that's what Robbie Anderson brings to the table. Mm-hmm. So that again goes back to we have to make up for this lack of talent in the secondary. We're going to have to get our pass rush going this week.
This is Adrian. You kind of stole the words right out of my mouth, brother. Here, but this is a week that, to be honest with you, let's say the Jets throw for 210 yards, maybe 1 touchdown and 2 picks. Everyone's going to say, okay, well, it looks good, but you always got to grade with a fair scale. This is the Jets here, folks. This is not exactly an elite defense. Following week, you get Minnesota, and I know Kirk Cousins has looked anything but average at best, but Diggs and Thielen can still make plays happen in the end of the day. And then all of a sudden you get Dallas. So, Adrian, you're right. This is the week to really figure it out. And if we don't see big strides here in confidence, I don't think you wait much longer. You got to pick up the phone and make a trade.
Well, I guess we can talk about Ramsey right now. Just we talked a lot about it last week, but we'll talk about it because it's a talking point. Everybody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
So the report was that the Eagles sent a first and a second to Jacksonville, and that was turned down according to Chris Mortensen. There was reportedly another trade which involved 2 firsts being sent to Jacksonville, and that was turned down. So I've been on here, been saying that I think it's going to take more than 2 firsts, depending on who you are. So, like the Eagles, for example, they're going to be picking in the 30s, potentially 32nd overall. They might win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So if they're picking late, those draft picks are not as appealing as, say, if you're the Steelers and you're going to be in the middle of the road, say pick maybe even in the top 10. So that's the value of like a second-round pick, the difference from picking like 32 to 15.
And with all these trade rumors, you always got to take them with a grain of salt. I mean, it could be the Jaguars trying to fish more value out of teams.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, we've heard that big offer apparently from the Ravens with Hayden Hurst, the first and the second, was it, I believe?
Yeah.
It's really tough to tell. I mean, Joe Banner, he talks to The Athletic. He was saying, like, we hear rumors about the Eagles being interested in the player. We're like, well, that's news to us, essentially. But I mean, you have to factor in, and if you are going to give up that much money, that much draft compensation, they better have a contract in place before that deal becomes official, because you don't give up 2 first-rounders and then risk losing him, because that gives the player all the leverage. That's why it was crazy to me the Texans traded for Tunsil without having a contract already in place. But it's going to be interesting. Do you give up all that draft compensation when we have other holes? We're one of the oldest teams in the NFL. We have Carson's mega deal kicking in next year. There's a lot of things to consider before just saying, "Oh, give him 2 first-round picks," because he's obviously worth it. But you got to think past just this season, because our window with cap space is going to be very tight already, and with him, how he's great with the cap, he's going to have to get very creative.
Yeah, and to me, fellas, this is tough, because obviously what Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL. If you don't believe any of the 3 of us, go ask DeAndre Hopkins who the best receiver in the corner in the NFL, corner in the NFL is, and he'll tell you straight up it's Jalen Ramsey. So if real recognize real, I don't think anyone here would say DeAndre Hopkins isn't the best, if not a top 3 receiver in the NFL. To me, I actually would not make this move, because I would rather go after Pat P or go after Harris. And I say that because exactly what you talked about, Skolsky. You got to get younger, and you don't get younger in free agency. It's very costly.
Well, he is only 24.
I understand that, but I'm saying you don't get younger in free agency. You don't typically get younger in trades. If you do, it's costly, like it would be for Ramsey. You get younger mostly by draft and draft capital. And the Eagles typically have done pretty damn well. So to me, if I could get Harris or Pat P for something less than a 4th, opposed to, let's say, 2 1s for Jalen Ramsey, I would rather put the Band-Aid on it as a short-term fix, get one of those guys, try to win a Super Bowl in the next 1 or 2 years with them being the starting corner, and then try to go out and draft a corner in this upcoming draft.
How about this? We gave up a middle rounder for one of those 2 guys, and then using possibly another middle rounder, a conditional middle rounder, getting someone like Geno Atkins, or getting someone to help bolster that defensive line.
Now you're talking. I mean,
I've been on that one too, as another team that's on the fire sale situation. The problem is there's not many edge guys that I think realistically could be on the sales market. I tease Von Miller as one of those guys, but I don't see many edge guys. Skolsky, you're right. Geno makes sense. The Bengals are absolute dumpster fire. Chandler Jones, I teased as well, but he's more of a 3-4 stand-up backer. Does not a great scheme fit. So you're right, Skolsky. If you ask me, hey, would you rather lose, let's say, a 3, a 4, and a 5, some type of combination of that, for Atkins and Pat P, or 2 1s for Jalen? Give me Geno and Pat P all day long.
All right, so here's the question I have for you before I make my point on Ramsey. Hypothetically speaking, let's say the Eagles get him. Would they change their scheme for him? Would they play a lot more man-to-man, because they play a lot of zone right now, a lot of off coverage? Would Schwartz scheme him into the scheme? Would he, like, because I'm bringing up that because it makes me think of Nnamdi Asomugha.
That's what I was thinking.
It wasn't a fit for the Eagles. What was that, 2012? So could it be a similar situation here?
I mean, with our defensive line not really getting a lot of pressure, we've been seeing a lot of blitzes. We have been seeing actually quite a lot more one-on-one coverage, I think, this year than we have in the past. And when you have someone as talented as Jalen Ramsey, and the talent isn't as great on your other cornerbacks, I mean, I just don't see how they wouldn't have him shadow their best wide receiver. Like, if that was the Green Bay game, how you would not have Jalen Ramsey just on Devontae Adams every single play. So I think, and when you have someone that's arguably one of the best defensive players in the NFL, and definitely the best cornerback, you kind of adjust your scheme to him.
Yeah, you make that trade, you know what you're getting into, point blank. You don't make that trade unless you're willing to make those adjustments.
So the thing I was going to follow that up with is I have seen some differences in the way Jim Schwartz has used his corners this year. For example, he's always used them on one side, and this year he's kind of rotating them back and forth. So anyway, the thing I did want to say about Ramsey was I've been making the point, just like Skolsky and Brennan were saying, I think the money is going to be tough, and I don't know how they get this done. This isn't the type of deal that Howie Roseman is used to making. I mean, it's like the Eagles are the ones without leverage here. The Eagles are the ones who want to be in where the leverage is in their favor. This is the situation where it's not that at all. It's they're going to have to pay the farm for them. So you're already down all these cornerbacks. The Jaguars know you're down all these cornerbacks. They're going to take advantage of that. And this isn't the type of move that Howie Roseman's used to making. So if they make this, I would be kind of shocked. I'd be a little shocked if they actually made this move. So, we'll see if it happens. All right, let's get into the Jets and actually talk about them. We're 25 minutes into the show. We really haven't even talked about the game yet. I will say this. They have a respectable defense. The offense, if Luke Falk's the quarterback, I'm not going to be worried too much about them. It's going to be a struggle for them to even pick up first downs. That's what happened against the Browns. But the defense, they've got some pieces.
C.J. Mosley missing practice again today, questionable in the game. That would be a huge loss.
That would be a very big loss because you can run the football easier if he's not around.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. And then he's also, again, bring back to 12 personnel. Bring that right back in there. That's going to be tough with Mosley out. It makes that even tougher to, stop that formation. But they have a respectable defense, but I'm confident with our play calling and our ability. We have Alshon should be 100%. I'm not counting on Djax yet this week, but Goddard's 100%. So if we could kind of do what we did last week, get the running game going to open up the play action, I see no reason why, we shouldn't be able to find success or at least put up, 3 scores.
Adrian, you kind of teased this and said this was kind of a bye week. I'm going to use a similar approach, but I'm going to take it a little differently. This is like when you guys played high school football, when you scrimmaged that team that was from 2 classes below you and you blew the doors off them. That's what the Eagles need to do. Not just for, being able to execute, but need to build confidence. I said this on my podcast. Success this week for the Eagles will be going into halftime up 2 touchdowns. That will be a successful game, is if they are up 2 touchdowns at halftime, that's success. Whether they win or lose the game, in my mind, it should be a win, obviously. But if they go into halftime only up 3, that's a big issue because that's been the biggest problem with the Eagles so far is sleepwalking through the first half, feeling overly confident and saying, we'll buy ourselves out. Bullshit. We need to go in and we need to blow the doors off in the first and second quarter, go into halftime and leave no doubt on the field that how talented this Eagles roster is. I don't think that there's any way that they lose this game. If they do, it's a big, big issue. But like I said, success up 2 touchdowns at halftime, fellas.
I like it. No, I echo everything you just said, and I'd love to see a performance like that because I don't think we've seen the perfect Eagles performance yet. We haven't seen it. Haven't seen it. Even Packers game was a great win, but the secondary struggled. And it's still a work in progress. And this is a game where you can fix the kinks, you can work on some stuff, get the first quarter scoring because they didn't score a point in the first quarter again.
I don't think my heart can take another finish like the last few weeks. I mean, a nice, comfortable fucking win would be nice. I don't even know the last time we had one of those. I mean, we were down big at halftime against Washington. Man. We had those 2 terrible drops against Falcons and Lions, and obviously the end of that game was just nuts against the Packers.
I'm trying to think last year because even last year all those games were so close. 2017 was when they were all lopsided.
So, yeah, the secondary was an issue. Another thing that we did not clean up against the Packers, but thankfully we kind of overcame it, was the self-inflicted wounds, the stupid penalties, the face masks.
I was ready to on the spot.
Oh, man. I mean, not many people can give Aaron Rodgers that many second chances and leave Lambeau with the W. So we got very lucky with that. But, I mean, first offensive play of the game that I don't know what the hell Derek Barnett was thinking there. I was actually kind of surprised he didn't get thrown out of the game there. But we had a couple of face masks. We had way too many 15-yard penalties against way too talented of a quarterback. And, I mean, we thankfully made it out alive. And we could afford against the Jets, but this is like a game where you want to clean that up for when we start getting against those bigger opponents. We have that ship tightened up a little bit.
Big time. I mean, I use that term preseason or, the early season scrimmage. That's the expectations to go out here and not win the game, but flat out blow the doors off them here. It's a 14-point spread. I mean, from what Vegas is saying. So I keep beating this over and over again, but, you should be up 14 at halftime if this is a successful game.
Yeah.
I mean, we match up so well against them. I mean, our run defense has been phenomenal this year. I'm sure we'll get into that. And I mean, if Darnold isn't playing, you can't assume their pass game's going. So there's really no excuse, even with the corners out, that we shouldn't have a successful.
I don't know how they're going to get more than like 6 points. I just like if they're going to be in 3rd and long all game because they can't run the ball. I saw this against Cleveland. It was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out all game essentially. They had 3 points in the entire game. So this again, we talk about fixing kinks, and this is a game for the pass rush. Get after the quarterback. Now they did sack Rodgers once last week. I think it was once. Derek Barnett had the strip sack. But what I noticed last week was the pressure was a lot better. Now, I know you came at me with the pressure rate stat, but I'm sure it went up after last week because I know that they definitely got after Aaron Rodgers for sure. He just kept escaping the pressure, which was absolutely outstanding on his part.
I mean, Barnett did get that 1 sack, and if you look at the film on that, they put a tight end on him.
Yeah, they tried to bring him across the formation. They slid the protection to the right, and they brought him down the formation.
So, I mean, credit to Barnett. He did exactly what he's supposed to when your defensive end lined up against maybe a non-Goddard tight end.
A tight end on the move trying to strike.
On Rodgers' backside. Yeah, I mean, and then he got the ball. It's a great play by him. I don't want to take that away from him still. But still, they're getting pressure, but they have to finish that. They have to get that sack. They can't lose contain, especially with a mobile QB like Rodgers. How many times do we see him roll out and make a big play when it looks like we had him in the bag? I mean, again, like some of these things that happened on Sunday, on Thursday, I'm surprised we still came out with a W, all things considered. But I mean, give them credit, bend but don't break. But that's not going to work the whole season. We got to clean that up.
Totally agree, Skolsky. Couldn't agree more. And Adrian, you teased it perfectly. The pass rush here, certainly another thing to really tool up. I think that's actually going to be a more fair thing to grade this week will be how well the pass rush does, more so than the defensive backs. Because like we said, we're not exactly playing a guy who really should be a starting quarterback in the NFL or even a backup in the NFL, Luke Falk. He was a practice squad guy before he became active duty. So, that's not exactly telling for what the defensive backs are up against. Zero reason, though, the defensive line shouldn't come after and get it. Yeah. Offensively, here's if I put my coach hat on, you kind of are realistic that hey, we should blow the doors off them. So in the 3rd and the 4th quarter, offensively and defensively, you start putting in different schemes. You put in different fronts. You put in different looks. Why? Because in 2 weeks you play the Cowboys, and you want to make sure that your film has a lot of variation. So you make the Cowboys go into practice with a much larger practice plan when they're doing scouting, opposed to a much smaller practice plan.
I have a fun fact for everyone. The leading rusher against the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Any guesses?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers with, I think, 45 yards.
Wow.
To be fair, though, Le'Veon Bell is going to be by far the most talented running back we've played. So, I mean, this will be a real test. I already think our run defense is legit, but this is going to be a more of a litmus test because he's by far the most talented one we faced so far.
I'm going to try and see what he's averaging quickly per carry as I'm talking here, because I don't think he's doing well. It's not his fault. Certainly not his fault. 2.9 yards per carry so far this year for Le'Veon Bell.
And how's he doing in the receiving game?
What's that?
How's he doing in receiving
game? He has let's see. Got to go down here. He's got 20 receptions for 121 yards. So getting used in the passing game. He's got 20 receptions in 3 games. So that's over 6, almost 7 receptions a game.
And they don't have the most impressive offensive line either. But I mean, we can't play down to the competition we faced. We didn't do great against the Redskins. They don't have a great offensive line. The Falcons had a banged-up offensive line, and we struggled against them.
Yep.
It did look a lot better against Green Bay. So, I mean, this is a test. I mean, it's not a great offensive line. Let's see if they're a little healthier. Let's see if Fletcher Cox can get his mojo back, and let's get some pressure with just the front 4.
Let's get some deep penetration. I haven't even used it much.
No, they haven't.
I haven't at all. It's the first time all show. It might have been the first time in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Come on, Fletcher. Come on. Got to plug some holes, baby. Plug some holes.
It's been nice, I got to say, to not have my ears violated like it was in the last 5 seconds. But thank you for that, Adrian. I do appreciate it.
All right, Cliff Harris. Where was I going? Okay, run defense real quick, and then we'll make predictions. So the run defense to me looks exactly the way it was 2 years ago. Because remember, last year, run defense was kind of lacking at times, and the Eagles would kind of get gashed. But they've really cleaned it up here the first month of the year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, to make any team one-dimensional is a huge advantage. I mean, even when our secondary's, struggling like that, but if our front seven is stopping the run that well, you can use our safeties to help out those inexperienced corners. So if we're shutting down, we're making any team one-dimensional. That's a huge win for us.
Next 3 running backs: Le'Veon Bell, Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott. I mean, you could argue those are the top 3 best running backs in the NFL in some order. Pick your poison. But right now, those 3 guys are all playing at an exceptional level. Maybe not Le'Veon Bell for different situations, right? Because Le'Veon Bell right now, his offense is like him running through a mall parking lot of really tightly parked cars because there's just no room for him to get around. But you got to be able to do it against Lev Bell, because then you want to build that confidence so you can do it against Dalvin Cook and make them one-dimensional in Minnesota, make them one-dimensional in Dallas. So this is a big trend-setting opportunity for the run defense here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I'll tell all those teams, bring it. Try to run it. I want them to run it. This is how it was in 2017. All those run-first teams could not run the football, but all the pass-first teams were able to move the ball on the Eagles. That's been, obviously common over recent years. But in terms of running the football, I'd like to see that it's gotten back to that. And, you got some matchup not mismatches, but they match up favorably against these teams, I think more so than some teams like the Packers, for example, more throwing the ball around the park, even though they are trying to run it more this year. So there's that. All right, predictions. So I'm not going to ask predictions of the games. We're all going to pick the Eagles here. So the bigger question is, there's a 14-point spread on this game. Are they going to cover it?
I'm going to go yes, and I'm also going to say they better, because like Brennan said, we need, this is the week where you kind of you want to see our offense realize their potential. You want to see this. We're a team with Super Bowl aspirations. This is a terrible Jets team without their starting quarterback and without their star defensive player. There's no reason we should not go in and blow the lid off. Like this, we have to make a statement. This is a statement game. So I'm going to say yes.
In the NFL, normally, if you're a team that's coming off a bye week, you have an extra week to get healthy first and foremost. You also have an extra week for scouting. The problem is, if you're the New York Jets, you sucked last week, so it means you're still going to suck this week. It's not like the roster all of a sudden changed here. So not only should the Eagles cover, they should blow this team out. I'm going to give you a number here, Adrian, 42-7. I think this one should absolutely be a laugher in every single facet of it. And like I said, 42-7, that sounds sexy, guys. But the score I care about is going to be the first half. That should be the score that we all should lock in on.
31-6 is my score. So we're pretty somewhat similar there, Brendan. I have a hard time believing they're going to get to 10. And I wonder what the first half line is. I wonder if I can look that up real quick.
So while you're looking that up, I didn't give a score. I'm going to go 35-14.
Okay. Oh, you forgot to give a score, didn't you?
Yeah, and I have a question for you guys. If Darnold does play, how does that – I mean, I'm still picking the Eagles, but how does that change your prediction?
I still think the Eagles win, just not 31-6. They would actually score some points. So like 31-16 maybe, 31-13. Maybe they get a touchdown.
I think the Eagles would have less possession, so I don't think they would score as much necessarily, because they're going to be able, in theory, to get more first downs. I don't see them scoring a lot more points.
Yeah.
If that happens, Skullman, we're probably talking like 31-10 type of situation. I still think it's a laugher, but I think the only thing that changes is the amount of possessions the Eagles offense gets, not how much the Eagles beat them by.
And I also can see it a lot like 2017 when, we had LeGarrette Blount, we put him in that second half, and we just had those 10-minute drives where we just methodically got 4 or 5 yards and ran out the clock. And then before you know it, one drive later, like more than like 3/4 of the quarter is already over. So, I mean, I could also see that as maybe a reason why we don't get into the 40s, but we definitely have the talent, and we definitely should. I mean, it will be great. It will be just a great confidence booster. As you said, we have the Minnesota and Dallas coming up. So this is a time to get, make a statement and get everyone on the level of thinking that we are Super Bowl contenders.
And I think if I'm going to like pick 2 players to really highlight to say I want to see them be exceptional, it's going to be first Burnett off the edge. Really got to see more from him consistently moving forward. And how about Miles Sanders? Let's just see more of Miles Sanders. Let's see him not fumble the football, because that's pretty damn important in the NFL here, and get a better idea of what really is his future going to be. This should be a laugher, which means you should run the ball more, which means he should get more opportunities. Got to make the most of them now, Miles.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find the line here. I just don't know where to look, I guess. So I'm guess I'm just an idiot. But you make the point of Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. I'll say this: Miles Sanders in the open field, like there was a run where he had 30 yards where it should have been a touchdown. If there are things that I'm seeing from him in the open field where he should be making cuts to the outside and he's not making them. And then there are cuts where he should go to the outside and he's not making them. His vision right now is a little bit off. When I see LaShawn McCoy in the open field and I see that jump cut, he always makes that safety miss. But when I'm seeing Miles Sanders, this is what he was known for, and he's not making people miss.
To be fair, Shady had a lot of the same issues his rookie season. A lot of times when in college, you're a running back that's very good because of how physically talented you are and how you can get by with that in college. You can bump to the outside when you play for Penn State and make a big run, but in the NFL, everyone's that athletic.
Yeah.
So when you're used to just being an uber athlete, he's learning more to trust his reads and trust, the blocking. So I think he kind of has to let the game slow down for him. But I think it will. I kind of think we saw a big improvement in the Green Bay game. So I think once the game continues to slow down, he learns to be more patient and more methodical instead of just immediately trying to bounce outside or, immediately, just go for the home run. I think we're going to start seeing him see more of the guy we saw in college, where he's going to start, showing why he can pretty much shake anyone out of their cleats.
First half line is Eagles -7 currently. It was 7.5. Now it's 7.
Smash that.
Smash it up.
Yep.
Bet of the week. Lock of the week. Eagles first half -7. Put all the money on.
Smash it.
Smash it up. All right. I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Anything else? Final thoughts, boys?
If we lose, I might have to wear a brown bag over my face for next week.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Don't even think that way.
Yeah,
Don't
but like Brendan said, I don't want to see just a win. I don't want to see us another squeaker. I don't want to see another game where it comes down to the last possession by either team. I want to see domination this week.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't see any way this is a loss. If this is a loss, we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Let's put it that way.
They're not losing. It's not going to happen. I told everyone to cool their jets. I was wrong about the Lions when they said they weren't going to lose to the Lions, but they're not going to lose to the Jets. Not to the Jets.
I want to see McCown come in a non-injury situation.
Yes. See, that was
down.
the great thing about 2017. All the times that we got the human victory cigar, Nick Foles, when he was known as the human victory cigar before he actually became the fucking victory cigar. But Nick Foles playing in all those games in 2017, I'm with you. I'd love to see him late in the third quarter when the Eagles are up 38-6 or something.
Get Corey Clement some touches. Get Miles Sanders some touches. Get those young guys some. Get JJ back. Get JJ Arcega-Whiteside's confidence up a bit.
Yeah,
let's just dominate this game.
Let's dominate. Take them out. Smash the first half line. Do it. Brendan Albert, Mike Skolsky. I'm Adrian Fedke. This was our Eagles-Jets preview. I got googly eyes because I think the Eagles are ready to go on a run. See you guys later.
Appreciate it.